The crystalline spires of the Centauri Mathematical Institute pierced the violet sky of Alpha Centauri b, their geometric perfection, a testament to the mathematical prowess of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. Dr. Maya Chen stood at the base of the central tower, her heart racing despite her outward calm. After 3 years as the first human faculty member at the Institute, she had earned respect through quiet competence, but today would test everything she had worked for. The great hall of the Institute hummed with the subtle vibrations of 1,000 different species' thought processes. Crystalline beings from the Rigel system refracted light in complex patterns that represented their calculations. Gaseous entities from Betelgeuse contained swirling equation clouds within their transparent forms. At the podium stood Sci-fi, the Institute's most renowned theorist, whose silicon-based neural network could process 1,000,000 calculations per second. The axiom of infinite recursion has remained unsolved for 12,000 years. Sci-fi announced, its crystalline voice resonating through the chamber. The greatest minds of 50 civilizations have failed to prove or disprove its validity. Today, we will begin a 1-week attempt to advance our understanding of this fundamental question. Maya studied the holographic projection of the axiom floating above the audience. The mathematical notation used symbols from a dozen different civilizations, each adding layers of complexity to the problem. But beneath the alien mathematics, she sensed something familiar, like recognizing a face in a crowd. The assembled beings began their work immediately. The air filled with the soft glow of computational matrices, the gentle hum of quantum processors, and the crystalline chiming of silicon-based thought. Maya pulled out her tablet, but instead of diving into calculations, she began drawing patterns. Sci-fi floated past her position, its crystalline structure suggesting what Maya had learned to interpret as disapproval. Dr. Chen, perhaps you misunderstand the magnitude of this challenge. The axiom requires the most advanced computational methods available. Maya didn't look up from her tablet. With respect, Professor, I see something in the pattern that doesn't require computation. She continued drawing, her stylus creating interconnected loops that seemed random but followed an internal logic only she could see. Around her, the other beings worked with increasing intensity. A group of energy beings from Vega had merged into a computational collective, their combined consciousness attacking the problem with the force of a small star. The crystalline beings had formed a lattice structure, each node processing a different aspect of the proof. But Maya kept drawing. The patterns on her tablet began to take shape, revealing connections that the complex calculations of her colleagues had obscured. She felt Sci-fi's attention shift back to her, the silicon being's computational matrices slowing as it observed her work. Dr. Chen, what exactly do you believe you're seeing? The question carried a mixture of condescension and genuine curiosity. Maya finally looked up, her eyes bright with the excitement of discovery. The axiom isn't about computation at all. It's about pattern recognition. Look. She projected her tablet's display into the air, overlaying it with the original axiom. The mathematics we're using is too complex. The answer is in the spaces between the equations, in the way the patterns repeat and evolve. The hall grew quiet as beings of all forms turned their attention to her projection. Maya stood, her confidence growing as she explained. Every civilization has added its own layer of complexity, trying to solve this with pure computation. But the original pattern is simple, beautiful. It's not about calculating the infinite. It's about understanding how infinity folds back on itself. Sci-fi's crystalline structure shifted through several colors as it processed her words. That is, not possible. The computational requirements alone are unnecessary, Maya finished. She manipulated her projection, stripping away layers of mathematical notation to reveal a surprisingly simple geometric pattern. The proof isn't in the calculation. It's in the pattern itself. The silence in the hall deepened as the implications of her approach began to register. Beings who had spent centuries developing ever more complex computational methods watched as a human, using nothing more advanced than a simple tablet, revealed what they had all missed. "This is unprecedented," Xylith 9 finally stated, its voice carrying undertones of both distress and fascination. If correct, this would fundamentally alter our understanding of mathematical principles. Maya nodded, continuing to manipulate the projection. The human brain is particularly good at pattern recognition. We evolved to see connections that aren't immediately obvious. Sometimes the most powerful calculator isn't as useful as a fresh perspective. Around the hall, beings began abandoning their calculations, focusing instead on Maya's geometric representation of the axiom. The energy collective separated into individual beings, each studying the pattern from a different angle. The crystalline lattice reformed, mimicking the structure Maya had revealed. Xylith 9's color shifted to a deep blue of intense concentration. "Dr. Chen, would you be willing to present your full analysis to the Institute? This perspective requires further study." Maya smiled, already expanding her diagram to show the full implications of her discovery. "Of course, Professor. Sometimes the universe's greatest mysteries aren't hidden in complexity. They're right in front of us, waiting for someone to see them in a new way." The news of Maya's unconventional approach spread through the Institute like a quantum wave collapse. Within hours, the massive archives of the Institute filled with beings from across the galaxy, all eager to witness her full presentation. The archive chamber, with its towering walls of crystalline data storage, had never seen such a diverse gathering. Maya stood at the center of the chamber, surrounded by floating platforms occupied by beings of all forms. The geometric pattern she had discovered now floated above her, rotating slowly in the air. Xylith 9 hovered nearby, its crystalline structure still cycling through shades of deep blue and violet. "The fundamental flaw in our approach to the axiom of infinite recursion," Maya began, her voice steady despite the pressure, "was our assumption that complexity equals sophistication. We've been trying to solve a puzzle by making it more complicated, not realizing that the solution lies in simplification." A being composed of pure plasma interrupted, its voice crackling with electromagnetic energy. "This defies millennia of established mathematical doctrine. Every major civilization has contributed layers of computational theory to this problem." "Exactly," Maya replied, expanding her geometric display. "And each layer obscured the underlying pattern. Look at the original axiom, before all the additions." She stripped away the complex notation, revealing a surprisingly elegant framework. "The pattern repeats, but not in the way we expected. It's like a spiral that appears to extend infinitely, but actually curves back on itself in a higher dimension." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of reactions. Energy beings pulsed with agitation, crystalline entities chimed in harmonic disagreement, and various atmospheric species created swirling vortices of debate. Through it all, Maya remained focused on her demonstration. "Dr. Chen," a silicon-based collective spoke, its voice resonating with multiple harmonics, "you suggest that 12,000 years of mathematical evolution is superfluous." Maya shook her head. "Not superfluous. Each layer of theory is valuable, but we've been building on top of a misunderstanding. It's like trying to map a sphere by creating increasingly complex flat projections, when what we really need is to step back and see the curve." From one of the higher platforms, a quantum consciousness manifested itself as a shimmering field of probability. "Your method lacks rigorous computational validation. How can you be certain of its accuracy without running the standard numerical proofs?" Maya smiled, recognizing the fear beneath the criticism. "Because the proof is self-evident in the pattern itself. Here, let me show you." She manipulated the display, causing the geometric framework to shift and flow. "Watch how the recursion creates its own validation. It's not just mathematics anymore. It's a form of visual logic." The chamber grew quiet as the pattern evolved, its elegant simplicity revealing deeper truths than any amount of computation could express. Even the most skeptical beings found themselves drawn into the hypnotic dance of interconnected shapes and lines. Xylith 9 moved closer to the display, its crystalline structure resonating with the geometric patterns. "This is disturbing," it admitted. "Our entire approach to mathematical theory may need to be reevaluated." "Not reevaluated," Maya corrected gently. "Enhanced. Human intuition and pattern recognition can work alongside computational precision. We're not replacing your methods, we're adding a new perspective." A young crystalline being, barely a century old, chimed with excitement. "The implications for theoretical mathematics are enormous. If we can apply this visual logic to other unsolved theorems." "Precisely," Maya agreed, expanding her display to show applications to other mathematical challenges. "This isn't just about solving one axiom. It's about opening up new ways of seeing mathematical relationships." The plasma being who had first objected flickered thoughtfully. "The human brain's pattern recognition capabilities. We have always considered them primitive compared to our computational abilities. Perhaps we were wrong." Maya continued her presentation, showing how her geometric approach could be applied to other seemingly unsolvable problems. The younger beings in the chamber were the first to embrace the new methodology, their minds less constrained by millennia of established doctrine. "Mathematics isn't just about calculation," Maya explained, her passion evident in every word. "It's about understanding the fundamental patterns of reality. Sometimes you need to step back from the equations and just look. See the connections that have always been there, waiting to be discovered." As the presentation continued, the initial skepticism began to give way to cautious excitement. Beings who had spent centuries pursuing purely computational solutions started to see the value of combining their methods with human intuition. The chamber buzzed with new possibilities, with the potential for breakthrough discoveries that could revolutionize galactic mathematics. Xylith 9's color shifted to a shade Maya had never seen before, suggesting an emotional state beyond its usual range. "Dr. Chen, you have given us much to consider. This may well represent a paradigm shift in mathematical theory." Maya nodded, already seeing the next steps in her mind's eye. "This is just the beginning. Imagine what we could achieve by combining human pattern recognition with your computational power. We could unlock mysteries that have puzzled both our species for generations." In the days following her presentation, Maya found herself at the center of a quiet revolution within the Centauri Mathematical Institute. The ancient halls, once filled with the steady hum of quantum computations, now resonated with a different kind of energy. Students and researchers gathered in small groups, their traditional computational methods supplemented by hand-drawn diagrams and physical models. Maya sat in her office, surrounded by three-dimensional projections of various mathematical concepts. A delegation of young researchers from different species had joined her, each bringing their own perspective to the emerging field of visual mathematics. "The pattern recognition principles you demonstrated can be applied to the quantum entanglement paradox," suggested Lyra, a young energy being whose form sparkled with enthusiasm. "We've been trying to compute our way through it for centuries, but perhaps we should be looking for visual symmetries instead." Maya nodded, manipulating one of the projections to show the quantum equations stripped down to their basic patterns. "Exactly. The mathematics of quantum entanglement mirrors patterns we see throughout nature. The challenge isn't calculating the relationships, it's recognizing how they echo across different scales." A crystalline student named Vex chimed softly, their structure refracting light in complex patterns. "But how do we validate these visual insights without computational proof? The Institute requires rigorous numerical validation for all theoretical advances. That's where we blend approaches," Maya explained, pulling up another projection. "Look at how the visual pattern maps perfectly onto the traditional equations. We're not abandoning computation, we're using it to verify what our pattern recognition reveals. It's like having two different languages describe the same truth." The door to her office shimmered as Xylith 9 passed through it, the professor's crystalline form more rigid than usual. "Dr. Chen, the Council of Mathematical Principles has requested your presence. There is concern about the implications of your methods." Maya had been expecting this. The council, composed of the most conservative theoretical minds in the galaxy, was known for its resistance to change. She stood, gathering her tablet and neural interface. "Would any of you like to join me?" she asked her students. "This affects your future as much as mine." The young researchers exchanged glances, then one by one indicated their agreement. Together, they followed Maya and Stylith 9 through the crystalline corridors to the council chamber, a vast dodecahedral room whose walls shifted with mathematical formulae. The council members, representing the most advanced mathematical traditions in the galaxy, occupied floating platforms arranged in a complex geometric pattern. Their combined computational power could simulate the birth and death of universes, yet Maya sensed their unease as she took her place in the center of the chamber. "Dr. Chen," began the chief theorist, "a quantum consciousness whose form flickered between multiple probability states, your visual approach to mathematical theory has caused considerable disruption. Students are abandoning proven computational methods in favor of intuitive speculation." Maya activated her tablet, projecting her latest work into the chamber. "With respect, chief theorist, they're not abandoning anything. They're learning to combine computational precision with intuitive understanding. Look at these results." The projection showed a series of seemingly unsolvable equations transformed through her visual methodology, each solution verified by traditional computational methods. Every breakthrough started with pattern recognition, then was confirmed through rigorous calculation. "We're not replacing the old ways, we're expanding them." A silicon-based council member vibrated with skepticism. "Pattern recognition is inherently subjective. Mathematics must remain objective, precise, quantifiable. Is it not precise to recognize the golden ratio in a spiral galaxy?" Maya challenged. "Is it not quantifiable to see the Fibonacci sequence in the growth patterns of crystals? The universe itself speaks in patterns. We're just learning to listen in a new way." The chamber filled with the subtle harmonics of council members communicating among themselves. Maya waited, knowing that this moment could determine the future of mathematical theory in the galaxy. Her students stood behind her, their presence a testament to the potential of this new approach. Xylith 9, to Maya's surprise, moved forward. "I have observed Dr. Chen's methods firsthand. While unconventional, they have led to verifiable breakthroughs in areas where pure computation has failed. Perhaps it is time for our understanding of mathematics to evolve." A young council member, their energy form barely contained by traditional parameters, spoke up. "The combination of human intuition and our computational capabilities could unlock new realms of mathematical understanding. We cannot ignore these possibilities out of mere tradition." The chief theorist's probability field fluctuated as they considered the arguments. "Dr. Chen, demonstrate for us. Show us how this human element enhances rather than diminishes mathematical rigor." Maya stepped forward, her confidence growing. She began to explain not just the mathematics, but the beauty of seeing patterns emerge from complexity, of recognizing the elegant simplicity that underlies the universe's most profound mysteries. As she spoke, the chamber's walls began to reflect her patterns, the ancient mathematical formulae arranging themselves into new configurations that bridged the gap between computation and intuition. The council members watched in silence as Maya demonstrated how human pattern recognition could reveal shortcuts through seemingly impenetrable mathematical problems, how visual thinking could suggest solutions that might take centuries to discover through pure computation. Slowly, the resistance in the chamber began to give way to curiosity, then to cautious excitement. The transformation of the Centauri Mathematical Institute happened not with a bang, but with a quiet shift in perspective that rippled through the galaxy's academic community. 1 month after Maya's presentation to the council, the Institute's great hall was filled again. But this time the atmosphere was different. Where once there had been rigid adherence to computational protocols, now there was a blend of traditional methods and innovative visual approaches. Maya stood before a group of senior researchers from across the galaxy, their diverse forms creating a living testament to the many ways intelligence could manifest. Her latest project floated above them, a revolutionary approach to solving the infamous helical paradox, a problem that had stymied mathematicians for generations. The beauty of this solution, Maya explained, manipulating the holographic display, is how it combines our different strengths. The pattern recognition reveals the structure, while your computational methods verify and extend the implications. A quantum-based entity pulsed with interest. We have run preliminary validations on your approach. The results are unprecedented. The efficiency gains alone represent a 12,000% improvement over traditional methods. Tyleth 9, who had become one of Maya's strongest supporters, added their own observations. The applications extend beyond pure mathematics. We are already seeing practical implementations in quantum engineering, space-time navigation, and dimensional mapping. The holographic display shifted, showing how Maya's methodology had been applied to various real-world challenges. Spaceships were being redesigned based on more efficient geometric principles. Quantum computers were being restructured to incorporate pattern-based processing alongside traditional computation. But the most exciting developments, Maya continued, are coming from our younger researchers. She gestured to a group of students who had embraced the hybrid approach. They're discovering patterns we never thought to look for, solving problems we thought were generations away from resolution. Lyra, the young energy being, stepped forward to demonstrate. Their form shimmered as they projected a new theoretical framework, one that combined the intuitive grace of pattern recognition with the precision of quantum mathematics. We've applied Dr. Chen's principles to the multidimensional correlation theory, they explained. The results suggest a completely new understanding of how dimensions interact. The assembled researchers watched in fascination as Lyra's presentation unfolded. The mathematical beauty of it was undeniable, even to the most traditional minds present. What had seemed radical just weeks ago now felt like a natural evolution of their field. A crystalline elder, their form etched with the patterns of centuries of mathematical study, chimed thoughtfully. In all my years, I never imagined that human intuition would lead us to such profound insights. We had become so focused on computation that we forgot to simply look. Maya smiled, remembering her own journey from outsider to catalyst for change. That's the real breakthrough here. It's not just about solving specific problems. It's about learning to see mathematics in a new way, about combining our different perspectives to understand the universe better. The discussion continued late into the day, with researchers from various species sharing how they had adapted and expanded upon Maya's methods. Some had developed new visualization techniques specific to their own forms of perception. Others had created hybrid systems that merged computational and intuitive approaches in novel ways. As the session drew to a close, Tyleth 9 made an announcement that sent a ripple of excitement through the hall. The Council has approved the establishment of a new department, Intuitive Mathematics. Dr. Chen will serve as its first director, with a mandate to develop these methodologies further. The news was met with enthusiasm, particularly from the younger researchers. Maya found herself surrounded by beings eager to join the new department, to explore the possibilities that this fusion of approaches offered. This is just the beginning, Maya told them, her eyes bright with possibilities. We've barely scratched the surface of what we can achieve together. Every species brings its own unique perspective, its own way of seeing patterns and understanding relationships. By combining these perspectives with rigorous mathematical principles, we're opening doors we didn't even know existed. The great hall hummed with energy as discussions broke out among the assembled beings. Plans were made, collaborations formed, and new research proposals drafted. The rigid barriers between intuition and computation, between pattern recognition and mathematical proof, were dissolving. Outside the hall's towering windows, the violet sky of Alpha Centauri b was darkening into evening. Maya stood for a moment, watching the geometric perfection of the Institute's spires catching the last light. She thought about how far they had come, and how far they still had to go. 1 year after Maya's initial breakthrough, the Centauri Mathematical Institute had become unrecognizable to its former self. The once rigid halls now pulsed with a dynamic energy as beings from across the galaxy came to study what had become known as the Chen methodology. The integration of human intuition with advanced computational systems had sparked a renaissance in mathematical theory that spread far beyond the Institute's crystalline walls. Maya stood in the observation dome, watching ships arrive from distant star systems, each bringing new students and researchers eager to learn this revolutionary approach. Beside her, Sylith 9's crystalline form reflected the light of Alpha Centauri b in complex patterns that seemed to echo the mathematical principles they had discovered together. The latest results from the Orion Institute have confirmed what we suspected, Sylith 9 announced, their voice carrying undertones of excitement that would have been unthinkable a year ago. The application of visual mathematics to quantum engineering has reduced computational requirements by orders of magnitude. They've achieved breakthroughs in faster-than-light travel that seemed centuries away. Maya nodded, watching as a ship from the Pleiades docked with impossible grace, its design clearly influenced by the new mathematical principles. "It's not just the mathematics that's changing," she observed. "We're seeing a fundamental shift in how different species approach problem-solving. The barriers between intuition and computation are breaking down across all fields." The observation dome filled with a soft light as Lyra, now head of the Institute's Advanced Pattern Recognition Division, materialized beside them. "The Council has approved our proposal for the Galactic Mathematical Exchange Program," they announced, their energy form sparkling with enthusiasm. "We'll be sending human teachers to mathematical institutes across the galaxy, while bringing researchers from other species to Earth." "And how are the traditional computational purists taking this news?" Maya asked, though she could guess the answer from Lyra's brightening aura. "Even the most conservative members of the Council can't argue with results," Lyra replied. "The Chen methodology has solved more long-standing mathematical problems in the past year than we managed in the previous century. They're calling it the Great Synthesis, the merger of biological intuition with computational precision." From below, they could hear the sounds of students gathering for the afternoon sessions. The Institute's teaching methods had evolved dramatically, now incorporating everything from traditional quantum computing to physical movement exercises designed to help different species develop their pattern recognition abilities. "We've received a fascinating report from the Vega system," Sylith 9 added. "Their bioengineering teams have begun developing new neural interfaces that allow non-human species to experience pattern recognition the way humans do. The implications for cross-species understanding are extraordinary." Maya felt a surge of pride mixed with humility. What had started as her simple insight into a single mathematical problem had grown into something far greater than she could have imagined. The Institute had become a symbol of what was possible when different species set aside their preconceptions and learned from each other's strengths. "Dr. Chen," a voice called from the entrance to the dome. A young silicon-based being approached, their crystalline structure vibrating with barely contained excitement. "The results from the dimensional mapping project. You need to see this." The group moved to a nearby holographic display where the student projected their findings. The display filled with intricate patterns that merged traditional mathematical notation with the visual principles Maya had pioneered. The patterns shifted and flowed, revealing connections between dimensions that had never been understood before. "This is remarkable," Sylith 9 chimed, their structure resonating with the displayed patterns. "You've mapped the relationship between 11-dimensional space using visual mathematics. The computational validation would have taken centuries using traditional methods." Maya studied the patterns, seeing in them the promise of even greater discoveries to come. "This is why the exchange program is so important," she said. "Every species brings its own unique perspective, its own way of seeing the universe. Together, we're learning to see things that none of us could have seen alone." As if to emphasize her point, a group of students passed below the dome, crystalline beings walking alongside energy forms, silicon-based entities in deep discussion with organic life forms, each contributing their unique perspective to the greater whole. The Institute had become more than a center of mathematical research. It was a model for how different species could work together, learn from each other, and achieve things that once seemed impossible. We've only begun to scratch the surface, Maya mused, watching as the dimensional mapping display revealed yet another layer of cosmic structure. There are so many patterns still to discover, so many connections waiting to be made. The light of Alpha Centauri b caught the crystalline spires of the Institute, creating a dazzling display of mathematical perfection. But now, unlike a year ago, everyone could see beyond the perfect geometry to the deeper patterns that connected all things. Human intuition had opened a door, but it would take all species working together to fully explore what lay beyond it. As the day drew to a close, Maya looked out at the violet sky and the distant stars, each one home to civilizations that might bring their own unique insights to this growing field of knowledge. The universe, she realized, had always spoken in patterns. They just needed to learn how to listen together.